the top I was wearing when I went to see the psychologist. Uh, After the visit to the psychologist, which was recommended to me by the office that gives me some money due to my no income, I was put in the computer. I mean, not I was put in the computer, my name was put in the computer with the diagnosis of some psychiatric disorders which I do not have. So this is the situation. So normally I am for do it right the first time, um, but under all those circumstances I have gone into do it now. So it's not my normal performance as I imagine it, which takes some preparation and then it's different, it's well ordered and so on, and short. But do it now, so I do it now. Main ideas. Another thing I should say before I begin is the impact of Gemba Kaizen on my thinking. So it sometimes means that I devote a lot of time to prepare something, but what I come with to this is the specific situation, teacher, pupil. What I come with in the end, with not that being the product yet, but the product being what my pupils can get as competence, is condensed. But it starts with the Gemba Kaizen, where I take what is needed in the field and then I work on it, and I don't invest money in it. I invest some money. Normally I invested some money because I invested money in paper, in colorful markers or ball pens, and also in books, because I needed the field vocabulary or some ideas too. Books had been inspirational, of course, but the overall end product was mine. Um, and finally, I believe in investing in people. In I believe in investing in people, which has not really proved successful. But well, apart from what I can say jokingly, that is, I should have invested in me. I have not found a better policy. So, what I have come up with are three main areas. The first one is identity, the second one is the nation, the people, and the third one is education. So, starting with the identity, which is inviolable, excuse me, they are not making it easy for me. Inviolability of the identity. Own personality, and this is from that personality that the real values, the ones that one actually lives, come. For instance, family. So it's always observable and we can perceive it easily. And then life. Even when there are some forces acting against the person will be acting according to oh, I can't speak. This is probably David S. Cohen again, trying to make the pretense, trying to make the appearance of it being Maya Rostowska or someone else. So the people will be acting according to their own identity, to whom they really are, in the direction that is in agreement with their identity. So towards something they can really identify with, and they would as the free person. And then work. The person will be creating the relationship which are natural for him or her. And I believe these are the main ideas that are simply true. I think there's a good test that is the test of freedom. What will the person be doing if she or he is given the full freedom? So it means there's zero oppression. There are only friendly relations. And the person is safe, no matter what she or he does. What is important is that the person may not be aware of all the possible directions he or she may take. So that needs to be supplied somehow to the nation or the people. So the first thing, the most important thing, is elimination of all criminality. The second point is the full potential of all citizens. The third point is the people are not equal, but each of them is important. And then the fourth point concerns competition. The competition eliminates the power of the nation. Out of the two ingenious persons, there is only one left. But if there is to be any competition, then only what I call a positive competition. That is not destroying the rival, but being the best as the self. So taking it to the best as the person without effecting destruction of the other. Then the fifth point, specialization kills potential, and it can block the truth, because the overall perception of the context of the problem is missing. So whatever problem there is, it is not, it's usually not because of it's not within the specialization. It has a wider, broader context. Ethics and law. The ethical person will work the best she or he can, without any supervision. Because it's natural for the person. Optimally in normal conditions. The law needs to be a framework within which the person moves or operates. The innocent person is always safe. If something wrong goes with that, then obviously it is a total bankruptcy of the system. Seven. It is forbidden to connect people who do not want to be connected. Walls result exactly from that. And the potential is minimized. So it's weak and waste. 8. It is forbidden to create artificial environments. That is to enforce a person's incorporation into a group to which the person naturally does not belong. And it is forbidden to give to the person a function to the citizen a function to which the citizen does not agree. There's a problem of leadership that is not losing it, because there is the best leader like me and there are those little dwarfish, vicious, vile, malicious people. So it normally ends up with the mediocre, getting rid of the great leader. And the leadership is taken by someone of the lower level. As a result, everything works worse, and the invaluable potential goes to waste. Education. So education is for competence. That is knowledge, skills, and then we can speak of being agile as a metaphor. So depending on the field or area of competence, someone can be fluent in a language, or someone can have the great, I don't know if one can say, spectrum in singing, or when one moves in business, or wherever one is actually. So I add this third component. So this is knowledge, skills, and being agile. The second thing is education is a duty. So learning is a duty. So we are not talking about this teacher being good or bad. And this is why I learned, or this is why I did not learn. It is the duty, so it has to do with the responsibility. And no other approach is acceptable in education. Now, of course, there can be some fun as a bonus or as a variation. But sometimes it may be necessary to break a pattern through having some fun in lessons or while doing the task, just to get out of a certain routine. And then even if one takes the routine back, there might be some change, or just for the refreshment. However, education is not supposed to be fun. It is supposed to be a duty, and this sense of duty is quite important. And education is the purpose in itself, so it is not for pragmatic reasons. And this is the elite, and that's the attitude that should always be present. Then I maintain the thesis of the multiple intelligences introduced by Gardner. But I insist on the full development as long as one is in the obligatory education. So no specializations according to the particular intelligences, but all kinds of intelligences developed and inspired. And this is the recommended elite attitude from me. Of course, with the thinking of the intelligence as the multiple intelligences comes the question of talents. So obviously talents should get some feeding. So there should be the offer in education. So apart from doing all as the comprehensive education without specializations, one has this extra open for talents. Now, education for professions or vocational education. It should be focused on understanding the whole area. So this is education with the idea of teaching all as if they were to become the executive directors, responsible for all. And there's a problem here because it may create, due to the psychology of the people, it may create eliminations. So this is a problem that needs to be solved, because we don't want to lose those people in the war, in the constant war against each other. Then another factor in education is the truth, so no indoctrination. So how do I understand it? For instance, if we teach psychology, we need to say that this is the state of the art, or the politically accepted philosophy, and the pupil needs to have the awareness of this. So whenever he or she deals with life or situations, he must be aware that there are different schools, and what is currently on the market is but the politically accepted philosophy. It might be true or not. It may have some truth in it. But overall, this is what it boils down to. And there should be the philological attitude to teaching foreign languages. So the university level for all from the very start. That redefines teaching. And it can be done in simple lessons too. And that can be probably done in other fields as well, but this is my educational and professional background, so I can speak from that perspective. Grammar remains the order. and then it has consequences for reading texts in specialized fields and the understanding of the texts the person is able to arrive at. So this is not only about learning a foreign language, this is about learning or one's own language, this is about learning the skill for life. Full elimination of chronism or other principles of promotion that depart from the very basic one, that is the achievement in terms of the school program or other educational program. So for instance, some points for the social background. So people from lower social backgrounds are to be given help, or people who are invalid are to be given help. They are not to be left out, but they are not to be promoted on the basis of them being from the low social backgrounds or being invalids. They are to be promoted when they reach their promotion grade. There is a problem that I have not managed to solve, or even in ideas, which has to do with danger. For instance, if someone has the talent for singing or for theater, then the person needs to be saved from the professional group for obvious reasons, which we are all aware of right now, I believe. So we don't want the criminality to reach the person who has a talent and can sing. So that means cutting off and creating a new elite, which is totally cut off from the bad practice. Individualization of tasks on the basis of the levels achieved. So the level must be set in a wise way. Because the pupil should not be made to do what he or she does not want to do. And if this is a requirement for reaching the level where the pupil would be operating smoothly and successfully, then obviously the pupil is blocked at the lower level. So as I'm saying, certain things cannot be skipped, for instance grammar. But, well, let me use a metaphor. Pupils do not need to learn oral sex. To become married. To get married. So this is the idea, more or less. The school program should be checked. And then basically, once we have the class in which some pupils have already reached the level, they should be given tasks of the higher level. So the whole class does not need to work on the same level, or the whole group. And there's a question concerning the obligatory foreign language for all, because many people coming from lower social backgrounds do not know their first language. So that's probably what they should master first, including grammar, etc. But if that is not made obligatory, then it should be made optional. So whichever level they are at, they can decide, okay, now I want to learn a foreign language because I am ready for it. And the school should be ready with the classes for such pupils. Each school should have the place for learning. So the conditions should be good, the atmosphere should be friendly, there should be peace and quiet, calm, and they should be always welcome. And that concerns school or other educational environments. And the focus, the emphasis on the analytical thinking or other logical thinking as opposed to procedures. So what we used to call memorizing, for instance, memorizing a poem without understanding it, without doing the analytical work of interpretation, is now shifted to procedures. So pupils learn how to do things, and they can become quick, but that goes in the direction of making them robotic and making the performance in life automatic, which is a danger. Overall, there should be the relationship that I thought of in terms of business, of the business culture, but that should be started at school actually, which is that 3 C's: communication, cooperation, coordination. Now there's the very important problem of attitude to errors or mistakes, and I say they should be corrected immediately, which should be a good practice. So, okay, you made a mistake, correct it, and correct it now. Then education towards the awareness of spiritual realms. So this is the world we are really living in, and from ancient times, actually, because it is getting more and it is becoming more and more clear that the ancient spirits have not died. So they might have been sleeping, but they break through. And this is not going against one's own creed, one's individual creed, which is a vital part of identity, of which I spoke in the first point. Incidentally, the first point, that is what I said about identity, own personality, life and work, apply to what I talked about in the second one, that is the people, the nation. So if you think about the nation, the people, there is the soul, so there's some personality, and there is the life, and there is the work. So basically this awareness is very important. but it is not supposed to take the person out of his or her own identity, his or her own creed, his or her own spiritual realm. And it is quite vital that we know this is also inviolable. And then read and understand versus authority. Oh, excuse me, before that, when I was talking about the individualization, it is most important to go back to what is missing in the education. And it has also to do with the promotion and the elimination of special treatment for those from lower social backgrounds or invalids in terms of promotion. So as I said, this help is mandatory, and a part of this help is making sure that whatever has been missing in their education is arrived at, so that they are smooth in their competence and they are at the level at which the other pupils were when they started and can move on. And that needs special programs and extra activities and professional knowledge. And I believe that the person that should be responsible for it at school, for instance, or elsewhere, because it can also be true elsewhere on the higher level and in companies too. At school, such a person is what's called in Polish pedagog. I'm not sure if the English pedagogy means the same. But this is basically the person responsible for the psychological stability of the pupils, for solving the problems that can appear, and such a person should be prepared professionally for guiding a pupil through all subjects, perhaps after consulting the teachers, and should be in constant communication with the pupils once there is the place for learning and the conditions are there. So basically what we need to get rid of is all those justifications where they say we cannot do it. As you can see, the general philosophy here is all are important and none is to be left behind, and none is to be destined for the physical work only. So I disagree with that. So I do not have a problem with someone choosing the physical work because they prefer it. They feel great with their body and they love when they know they can use their body to produce beautiful buildings or whatever. But they are not to be destined by being labeled unable and not given the right education. And then finally arriving at read and understand versus authority. So for instance, that is very, what I mean by that is very clear when we think of the Bible. So we have the Holy Bible and we have the doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church. Optimally, from the very beginning, each pupil should be educated towards reading the Bible and reaching the understanding, no matter what the doctrine says. So this is not to reject the authority. This is about being able not to take something only on the basis of it being the authority voice. As we well know, we hardly ever hear in the Roman Catholic Church about the sin against the Holy Spirit, and it happens to be vital. So, if more Roman Catholics were aware of the sin against the Holy Spirit, the Church would not have fallen, because they would be making sure the sin against the Holy Spirit never happens. Knowing the consequence, knowing that there's no way back. So they would be able to take the responsibility, no matter what the authority does. And this is the qualitative change. Quotes. Quotes are very important. So the attitude to quotes, and this is going from the quotes given to understand and memorize and act by, to the quotes given as a feed for thought, some food for thought. So you are given a quote, how do you relate to it? So this is the first thing about quotes. The second is the context. So it is not a one-line quote. It has a wider context, so actually it's a whole paragraph. And that paragraph also has a context of the paragraph before and the paragraph after. And it so happens that they are part of a book. And it might even happen that the book is in a dialogue with another book, and so on. And the pupil from the primary school must be aware of it already in the first class. So obviously we take it to the lower level. It can be in a fairy tale, but they must be able to know what happens between someone saying something and someone saying something in relation or in response to what someone else said. And it is different from the someone saying the very same thing on his own or on her own inspiration. And then finally quotes the authorship. So I wrote my MA thesis on Shakespeare, and it irritates me a lot when I hear someone quoting Shakespeare without saying which character says it. Agnieszka, Beata, Magdalena, Rojek, then 29th of May 2021. Just a few points to give an idea of my general thinking. I can see I have not mentioned the lifelong education. Of course, this is strongly recommended. It should not be enforced, but it should have been it should be left as a choice. So again, the elite attitude recommended here, that is the comprehensive education, lifelong.